Hey everyone, I appreciate everyone's response, by the way, on my last message on the 23rd. But people were reaching out and asking me to do more videos, so I thought I would do one tonight because there's a lot of crazy cool things going on, and I wanted to show like just how crazy it is right now. Honestly, look at, so this is this site called the Sky, and you can kind of go through and it has the dates down here. I just kind of wanted to play around and show you what it looks like. And this is all these comets coming in. It's 2025 now. See how crazy that is? It gets all in the middle right there. They all come in at the same time and then they all leave. And this is next year and then 2027. But I just thought that was really interesting to see that and how they actually are all, except for this one, is not on the ecliptic, but they're all sort of flying through right at the same time. It's insane. And there's seven of them. There's only four in this picture. I don't know how to get the other three up on this thing. I haven't figured it out. But this is just another view of it, of how the Earth's moving. And then you can see the swan misses Mars, and then it's coming around here. And then you'll see out of the blue, the AI Atlas comes flying in. But look at this one coming in hot. And then it misses this. Those two miss each other, which is crazy. Here comes AI Atlas, and then this one misses Earth. And all these other ones are flying through. Like I said, there's only four right now on here, and there's actually seven coming in right now. If I can figure out how to find the other three, I'll do it and see where they're coming in. But I just thought that was really interesting. And then I wanted to back up and show you some things that happened today, which is pretty crazy. I watched this guy, Stefan Burns. He's a really good dude, but he has a great channel. And basically, check, this is what happened today. There was two earthquakes today in the Philippines, and I'll let him explain it because he does a better job. But let me see if I can figure out how to get him to do it.
Hey everyone, geophysicist Stefan Burns here. Breaking news, in fact, a ton to report today because there is a lot happening energetically. We just got out of a G3 geomagnetic storm. The storming is still going, but that big pulse of G3 activity, which is a strong geomagnetic storm, that has come to a close. After that occurred, we had a magnitude 6.9 earthquake strike the Philippines. And now, just within an hour as I'm recording this, we just had a magnitude 6.0 earthquake strike Indonesia near the island of Bali. So two big earthquakes hit Southeast Asia today. And well, that's one of the things I talked about in yesterday's live stream as to how these sort of geomagnetic fluctuations can induce very powerful electric currents in Earth's surface, and if those hit faults that are at critical stresses, that could be an agent of destabilization, and then we get that rupture. Seems that's exactly what happened today. At least there is a clear connection in time between this G3 geomagnetic storm, the main phase of it, and then the earthquakes. And in addition to that, sunspots are still exploding on the sun. We're around 190, 200. We have some big sunspots that will soon be Earth-facing direct in the next day or two, and that's a transit that will last all the way through about October 3rd when we have that close approach of 3I Atlas to Mars. We also just had a big plasma filament blast off from the southwest limb of the sun that does not appear Earth-directed, but like we saw back in March 28th, 2025, where we had this big X-class flare and coronal mass ejection launched from the sun that corresponded with the magnitude 7.7 earthquake in Myanmar. There was an aftershock. There was a 6.6 and a 6.2 earthquake that also struck a spreading ridge in the ocean. It seems that we get these sometimes spikes in activity that are not only reflected here on Earth, but also across the solar systems, primarily with the sun. So that's what's happened today. Wave visualization for that magnitude 6.9 earthquake in the Philippines. We're looking at North America, the North American Seismic Network. They produce these visualizations for that. I would find one that's closer if I could, but I haven't found one. But this is still interesting because that earthquake in the Philippines happened way far away from the United States, from Canada, from Mexico, yet it was still picked up by this North American Seismic Network. You can see these waves start to come in, especially here in California where we have a high density of seismometers, and you'll notice that there's just in general some noise there already existing, but look at these waves sweeping through. Red is positive up motion, blue is down motion, and so you see how you get the ground basically undulating like this, not only in the Philippines and not only in Southeast Asia, but all the way across the world in North America and Europe. The entire globe experienced the seismic waves from that magnitude 6.9 because that is a strong earthquake. So, and here we
So I thought I would show that. It's pretty insane because there's so many other things happening right now that I don't even know how to get into everything because it's just too much. But I actually didn't prepare the other slides that I really wanted to get into. But this is something he was mentioning, Miramar, when that happened in March. And like right now, this is crazy because this is what's happening in Italy. The roads are melting, and you can see it with their heat sensors. That's what I was talking about the other day, Campi Flegrei, or Flegrei. In that place is, it's just a huge caldera. This is a volcano. This over here is Vesuvius. You can't see it, but it's like this big. Everyone knows about that because it killed everybody in Pompeii. This, all these people live in here, and there's just bubbling mud pits and stuff happening right now. And they said that they measured the one spot was 165 degrees Celsius, which is really hot, like 400 degrees. I don't actually know what it is. It's somewhere around probably 350 degrees or somewhere in that. I don't know. Anyway, so that's pretty scary. That's been going on, and people just are just still living there. And then I watched this video today on Mount Pele when it erupted. They all saw the warning signs, and there was an election at the time, and the people in charge, the mayor, whoever it was that was going up for re-election, he had paid people off to lie so that people didn't leave the area because he needed the votes, and then everybody died. They all stayed, and they believed in it that he was telling the truth. And I have to look back at that story and actually pull it up for you because it's crazy. But that's what's happening right now in Italy. They're not really telling the people the truth, and they're just kind of like sugarcoating it. Because imagine everybody that lives here, if they said you have to all leave, there's like millions and millions of people. Where are they going to go? They have zero money because their real estate's gone forever because no one's going to buy it. Insurance won't cover it, and it's just waiting. They're just waiting to hoping that nothing happens, and they're never going to tell them to leave. That's the scariest part. But you can see underground what it looks like, and it's getting worse and worse and hotter, and roads are melting, and they just patch it, and then it comes back and gets worse and melts faster. But I thought that was pretty insane. So yeah, I could go into some other things right now if I feel like it. It's really late, but I had all these different slides that I kind of wanted to. Oh yeah, since my grandfather's funeral, my real father died the other day when I made that video. It was crazy. And I look back at his father, my grandpa, who would come back from the dead and helped me and showed me I had cancer and all that stuff and showed me where he was buried. But I looked up his obituary and I realized that he was buried on the Tuesday. And when my mom called me and said your grandpa died, I had having visions Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday all week because I'd driven past this funeral home. Like my house is up here, and down here's this funeral home behind Elder, and literally I had driven past it, and when I did, I was right here, and I saw right here a casket being pushed, and it stuck with me for 2 days, and I couldn't stop seeing it. It was like flashing and flashing, and I drove to work, and I was working in Kentucky at the time, and I didn't know. I knew someone was bad. And I was telling the girl I live with, Delaney, I was telling her, "Hey, I keep seeing this casket. Someone's going to die. I don't know what's happening." And then she freaked out when my mom called me on Sunday and said that your grandfather died because I had been talking about it all week. And it turns out this is exactly where my grandma was buried, and I didn't know that either. But that's where he was buried later. It was right there. So it's not like it's. I mean, it's so close to where I saw that casket. Now I'm wondering, this is where he's buried, and this is where I saw it. So I'm wondering now that it's been this long. Is like, did I see his casket on Tuesday? Because that was a Tuesday that I drove by. And now I want to go back and find out if anyone else was buried on the same day because I don't know why they would get him out right here since he's down here, but I don't know how it works. And I don't remember what time I drove past, but I drove past, saw a casket on that Tuesday. And then my mom called me Sunday and said your grandpa had died and they buried him already. I thought she said he died Thursday is what I thought she said, but then Saturday was the day that he actually showed that he was buried. I'm sorry, Saturday is when he died. It was Saturday, April 13th, 2002. So everything, I don't know. I'm looking back at my past things that have happened because it's just crazy. Some of the stuff, literally when I saw that, and then it turns out this is where they were buried. So I got a lot of other stories I kind of baked in here. I don't really feel like going through them right now. Like this is a freaking dream that I had that was crazy. That was like, I just tried to make a picture that showed it, but I literally had Jesus, I think, or someone come behind me in my dad's bedroom from when I was a child. This was before all this stuff started happening about 3 years ago, and grabbed me from behind. The funniest part about it is I was standing in the room, looking at the walls, standing at the chest of drawers, and when I felt someone come behind me and grab me and like hug me, and it felt like they went through my body, like it was like an enveloping hug. The first thing I said was, "You better not be a dude." And I heard him laugh, and then the next thing I know, I was standing next to him, but I couldn't see him. I just was looking at myself because he said, "Watch this," and I literally was standing next to him, looking up at myself where I was on the ceiling. This picture doesn't even depict it well because the ball was on the ceiling, touching the ceiling, and I was completely enveloped in it, like it was coming out my back too. But AI didn't really treat me well in this image I was trying to make. And then I was like facing the ceiling. I was watching myself actually on the ceiling. Couldn't see whoever was standing next to me. I'm assuming Jesus, whatever. I never heard, no one ever told me. So I never saw his face or anything. And then he said, "Watch this." And the next thing I knew, boom, I was in my body on the ceiling, staring at the ceiling. And then I realized I could roll over, and I rolled over and looked around and tried to look back at where I was standing and see who it was. And there was no one there. Anyway, that was pretty crazy. That was before all this other stuff happened, which, when my friend Jim I told me that I was actually going to go through. He was the one I went to and said, I have so many stories from him. My God, 15 years ago, he told me I was going to meet a blonde and have two girls. I didn't believe him. I said, I'm not getting married and I'm dating a dark haired girl. And he's like, nope, sorry, bud, it's coming. And then I met Amy, blonde, and then I had two girls. So when I had a couple problems years ago and I was sick and I thought I was dying, I was passing out, all these problems, I called him and the doctors told me my blood was fine. And so he actually checked me out through a Zoom call during COVID and literally told me immediately, it's your blood, you need to quit this and stop eating the sugars, it's your red line and all these things. And I asked him a couple other questions about this patent that we had that we were suing Google and Microsoft for the last 20 years. And he was like, yeah, bud, sorry, you're going to lose. It's going to end really badly. And he was like, you guys are going to be upset. And that happened exactly the way he said. And there was a couple other things. And then that was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And then when I had this recent thing where my business partner and I were breaking up with Hipsy, I went to him and said, what should I do? What do you think I should do? Because I was pretty distraught about it. And he told me, he said, you don't want the business. You're going to do something that's going to change the world. You're going to build this platform. I've been seeing it all my life. And freaked me out. I literally had to get off the phone and I was like, I had to go because I had diarrhea because it made me so sick. When he told me, it was like a flush of energy through my entire body. I can't explain. And then I got back on the phone with him and he told me the same thing. He said, you know, your guides are telling mine that this is what you can do and da-da-da. And it was going to be all these things. And it was going to be hard and it was going to suck. And it was going to be really difficult, but it was going to be really helpful for people in the future. And we didn't have a clue what it was going to be, but I just I said, okay. And then a couple other things happened. And then really the scariest thing after that was when my daughter, there was a couple things that happened to me. I don't think I have it in here with my daughter, but she had a vision and it was at 2 a.m. and she basically was like choking to death in front of me in a vision and it was scary as hell. And I just wiped it out of my head. And then the next day I woke up and did our day. And then 11 o'clock at night, she came down and she was still in diapers then. And she woke up or something. And I said, I'll take her back upstairs. And as we were going up, she was like, Daddy, look at this ring. And she showed me this giant ring on her finger. And then I laid her down to change her diaper. And literally she looked up at me and went, oh, and choking on this giant ring. So I freaked out and got her up and put my hand down her throat and literally started doing Heimlich and trying to figure out what was in there. And it was so scary. I screamed as loud as I could, and Amy came running up. And by the time I ninja dadded everything and had her down, she was like choking. And I'm still trying to do Heimlich. And Amy was like, "Oh, here's the ring right here." She picked it up off the ground. And I was like, "There's no freaking way!" And I just freaked out, went in the other room, and got in fetal position, and just almost had a heart attack because I realized, oh my God, I had this vision last night, and it freaked me out. And a couple days later, I realized that it was 8/8/22, which all leads into my other story from my previous video of my accident being on 8/8/88 and my whole 248 stuff that's been going on. But you're just sitting here talking, my jaw is just shaking because it makes me so, oh my God, that was the worst moment of my life, I swear. Anyway, I gotta take a breath from that. It was so freaking awful. But God, I mean, they were there, they showed me, and it turned out to be on 8/8/22, 2022. So that was pretty crazy. And then some other things happened. Jemai told me in September or in October, he was like, hey, I'm just been, he's like, your guides are telling me to look at 12/2. Something's going to happen. And that day came and went. And 10 days later, I called my friend whose wife was dying of cancer. And he was like, oh, I'm surprised you haven't called me yet. And I was like, why? And he said, check your wallet. So I go to my freaking crypto wallet. And he had sent me $100,000 worth of this crypto called Aurora, which back then we had no idea what it was going to be worth. But at the time, it said it was worth 100 grand. But that was pretty crazy because that happened a month, like 6 weeks earlier. I think Jim told me that was going to come. He's like, I don't know what it's going to be, but they're just showing me something to look for and just another sign. So, and it happened. And my wife was like, holy shit. Because I didn't even call him until the 10th. I remember, and looking back, he had sent it on the 2nd, which was crazy. And I just have so many other stories I don't really feel like getting into right now because I literally threw myself into an energy fit with my daughter's story because it's so crazy. But she's alive and kicking, and it's just another one of those things that happened along the way. The timing of my 248 stuff and the eights, and it really was something. And I had other things I wanted to talk about too, but I don't really feel like it now. It really makes my heart hurts now a little bit because I think about that and like, my God. But they helped me. Somebody helped me. Somebody helped me save her because I did it. But this woman here, she was on the last plane with Bush during 9/11. She was in the Navy, and she was the chief of the Army, whoever was in charge of the Army or whatever. She was their secretary, I guess. She followed them around the world and just helped. Anyway, she's amazing. I saw her on a show, and she had quit the army and whatever, the Navy, and her husband was an admiral on a ship, and he quit too. And anyway, their stepdaughter died from electrocution she got struck by lightning, and she was pregnant. And Suzanne decided she wanted to find her. She was like, I don't accept that she's dead. And she became a medium, and she teaches a way to contact other people had passed, which that's how I ended up doing her meditation. And I got the name Azrael when I went through her meditation, and it actually ended up my friend's wife who had cancer, who gave me the $100,000. She died on like January 5th, I don't know, somewhere around the 15th or 10th or somewhere around there. And the day of her funeral, well, I thought it was her funeral because I went there and it wasn't until the next week. I don't know what the hell I was doing at the time because I had so much going on, but I did the meditation that day, and that's when I got the name Azrael, from learning how to do it and asking for your guides to come in and into your energy field. And you can feel it. I felt 5 different energy field, and then you can ask their name, and I only got 2 names out of the 5, but the 4th one showed me the vision of it when I was in my dad's bedroom and on the ceiling, and basically it was like my guide for relationships, and it kind of it drug out of me and asked me sort of, who did you think about when you had that vision? And immediately I realized my wife, because when I dropped to my feet and I ran on the stairs, I was yelling for my wife, so I wanted to tell her. So it was sort of a poignant moment of they were trying to teach me to, probably pay more attention or to listen to her more or realize how important she is in this process, maybe, or something. I don't know. There was a lot of things that were happening, but so yeah, so Azrael came through, and it was literally from my forearms to my fingertips. It felt like Tron. My arms were literally engaged. Like I can't even explain. Like felt like they were electric. And I asked the name, and I got Azrael. And so that's where I figured that out, how to do that with her. And then my friend's wife had passed, and 2 months after that, I can actually pull this note up. I went over his house to just say hi and talk with him because he was just, obviously bummed out. And before I went, I got in the shower and I literally said to his wife in the shower out loud, if you want to tell Brian anything, let me know. And immediately I started hearing a song in my head of this TV show that my kids watch about storks. It's Bringing These Babies Home. I don't even know what the name of this freaking cartoon is, but it's like bringing these babies home, bringing these babies home. So I got out, and I actually said, kind of, are you having kids in the family, or is there something with kids? And it just kept singing in my head. I just kept hearing it. So I got out and I wrote a note to myself so that I could show him when I went there. I put it into a timestamp note so I could show him. And we went to his house and we were talking about 30 minutes in, and he was like, yeah, we just found out my daughter's pregnant. He was actually, both my daughters are pregnant. I was like, oh, really? Did your wife know that? And he said, no. My second, she knew about the one, but the second one, she couldn't get pregnant, and she'd been trying for years. And 5 days after Melissa died, we found out she was pregnant. And I pulled my phone out and showed him my message that I'd left him. And I'll show that real quick. I have it somewhere. Yeah, here's what I wrote. I asked Melissa if she wanted to give Brian a message, and I heard the song from Tots. That's what it was called, Bringing This Baby Home. And I wrote, I kind of disclaimed myself, not sure if it meant her baby was coming home to visit, or if her baby was having a baby, or it's just a coincidence. So, but it turns out they were having a baby, and it was her way of saying, hey, I'm here and I know, which I thought was pretty freaking awesome. He was shocked. He was like, kind of scared him, I think. And then I went back and told Jim, I said, I don't know if he accepted it well. He goes, Bud, you can't do that. You can't go to people when they have people pass away and just tell them you're talking to their dead relatives. And I was like, oh, shit. So that was my first experience and only experience like that, where I got a message from somebody else for someone else, but thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, I had a slide earlier that I had made this. A few days later, I realized, oops, about my daughter. Back when that happened, that was freaking nuts. And oh yeah, which reminds me of the other thing. So she was born on the 28th. My mom is the 4th. My grandma is the 22nd. My other grandma is the 24th. My other daughter is the 24th. So the 248 that I talked about, last week. I guess it was last week now. And my whole life revolves around these 8s and all this stuff. That was just another crazy thing I just found out this week. This is my original video. This is like, I talked about this all stuff last time, but so yeah, my 248 crap, it's still coming. Now we've got solar flares and all kinds of good stuff happening, and everyone's going to start realizing that we're going through a pole shift, which really was my next video I need to make, is explaining what the hell's happening. But that's kind of a scary video. People aren't ready for that, I don't think. They're just going to get a little bit of teaser about these earthquakes and what the hell's going on and how the sun's affecting everybody. And now we've got this craziness going on with these. These are just going to be so interesting when this comes around, because I just feel like our sun is going to react for sure. I mean, it already does it. I mean, I've seen it with the other comet from the last video I showed you guys. When it came through, boom, both those flares went off. Whenever there's other stuff around, it just causes the sun to react because of pressure and all the plasma and the magnetic fields and just everything. It's crazy. So anyway, that's all I got for today. It's a long video and it was kind of slow, but I just thought I'd get that out. Have a great day.